Hello everyone, I'm Aditi, one of the editors of the Fifth Estate. Today I have with me Sukheth K M, contesting for the post of Co-Curricular Affairs Secretary. So my first question for you, Sukheth, is regarding Inter IIT Contingent. Can you discuss your strategies to improve contingent performance? Additionally, what is your perspective on contingent probables, and do you plan to have them? And if so, how do you plan to mentor the selected students?
The problem with Inter IIT right now is that there is not enough awareness in the general student body about Inter IIT Tech being a very attractive opportunity for students. Second is there being a significant skill gap for freshers to participate. And the third is that the recruitment happens during NSEMs, in the NSEMs of the odd semester. These are three problems that exist, and the way this can be solved is by pulling Inter IIT Tech contingent selection somewhere across near August, September, and October. You select an interest group of about 30 to 40 students and allot a C5 strategist responsible for training these students through the year. Second, third, and fourth year students can get into this interest group by showing enough experience, either background through internships, projects, and so on. And first year students can get into this by showing consistency in tech talk and CPAP.
My second question for you is, how do you intend to guarantee transparency in the team selection process?
So I will answer this question in two steps. First is the coordinator and the head level positions in all teams. And the nomenclature is not consistent across teams. So when I say coordinator and head, it means the second and third year positions. And the fourth year positions may be core positions or head positions respectively. So for the lower years, for the second or third year positions, there would be review rounds with the rejected candidates by the people who are actually selecting them. So it would be the heads or the course who actually have a session with all of the rejected candidates to tell them why they didn't get through, what lacked in their application or what lacked in their interview or what lacked in their fundraise and so on. For the course, it would have an additional round. For example, Shastra course already have a round with the COCAT, but I intend to have an additional round with the COCAS and the COCAT for all teams, making this uniform, that the faculty advisor has a reasonable say and visibility on who's getting selected as a core, who's getting selected as a head, and for what reason. And the COCAS has a reasonable, again, visibility on who's actually getting selected as the ESL head, and for what reasons not.
Now let's move on to your manifesto specific questions. The first question for you is, considering that the roles that come in for ESL startup InternFair are not all research oriented, how does opening it up to postgraduate students cater to them?
So the current outreach to all the companies in ESL is mostly focused on startups that are recruiting for roles like web development, software engineering, and so on that are more suited for the BTech students. So again, answering this question in two steps, one for the MTech students and one for the MS and PhD scholars. MTech students, they can just participate or take up the same roles that the BTech students do, only that they are more suited for the core engineering profiles than BTech students. So for example, a mechanical engineering or a JLR intern, for example, I would be more suited for as an MTech student than someone as a BTech student. So for MTech students, that answers the question. For MS and PhD scholars, the outreach will be expanded from the current existing pool of ESL startups to startups that are more R&D focused, that need more, core math talent. It could be AI startups, deep tech, space tech startups, EV startups, and so on, that need a lot of more tech building that MS and PhD scholars are more suited for because of their research specialization.
So the next question is about PG Advisory Committee. Considering the past challenges faced in integrating PG participation with the different timelines and commitments of undergraduate teams, how can the proposed PG Advisory Committee structure ensure consistent and valuable engagement from the PG community within constraint of their existing commitments?
The problem with the existing structure is that all of the undergraduate teams, including C5, are run by UG students predominantly, and the club heads and the C5 head are UG students. Now, when this happens, it is very likely that the UG students plan everything according to their own timeline because most interest is again shown by UG students because their seniors are pushing them to do it. So it's a continuous cycle where UG students are pushing for their juniors to participate and they're participating, and all of these opportunities again catered for UG students themselves. Now, the way you inculcate PG students is by making sure that there is someone responsible from the PG community to involve PG students because he understands their commitments and their schedules better. And so now the introduction of a C5 PG head or an equivalent position will make sure that he's understanding all of the commitments of the other PG students well enough. And second, because of the introduction of an advisory committee, the role is very different and their commitment is significantly lesser than what a normal POR and C5 would need. And because that time commitment is significantly lower, they would be able to give that up. Somewhere around 2 to 3 hours a week is doable for MTech and MS.
So my last question for you is, what concrete incentives do founders have to participate in the EIR program, especially when tasked with mentoring first and second year students with limited industry experience for an extended period?
Okay, so to clarify, EIR program is also done by startups and by larger companies as well. Smaller companies or like startup founders do it to promote startup culture because they have come out of a similar environment and they want to promote startup culture as much as possible and make sure that college students are not scared of starting up in their early years and give them a very good taste of how it is to start up. But for larger companies, it is more about solving a problem of their own that exists within their large company and making sure that there is a thriving environment that an undergraduate student can be given and some flexibility based on his own thinking because they're not restricted by constraints because they don't have industry experience. So it's mostly about banking on their out of the box thinking to solve a certain problem. And if something comes out of that, the larger company becomes potential clients to the smaller company. For example, Maruti Suzuki may do this for a problem that they may have in their engine, in which case something that you make becomes a business and Maruti Suzuki becomes your first client, in which case Maruti Suzuki is benefiting. And for a smaller company, that is more about building relationships with future startups that they can work with very closely.
Thank you and all the best for your campaign.